Namaste and good evening. My name is Pavitra and as part of Yoga with Pavitra Balraj, I'm happy to welcome you all to this awareness session on women health. So I've been teaching yoga for 4 years now, and out of my experience and interaction with the female students, I observed that a lot of time women go through different health challenges at different stages of life. So I was thinking, why not an awareness session for women? So that is when the lockdown happened and a lot of live sessions were happening in different medium. So I choose Instagram Live. And when I was thinking, of a gynecologist who would basically come educate us and also share some natural remedies, then this wonderful woman who's in front of us came to my mind with extensive knowledge in the medical arena. She also has a perfect balance with her personal, professional life and fitness journey. So here we have Bhavna S. Mehta, who's a senior consultant, obstetrician, and a gynecologist, and an SRMS alumnus. Welcome, Bhavna.
Hi, Pavi.
Happy to have you here. I'm super excited, actually.
Thank you for having me over. And I'm excited as well.
Dr. Bhavna S. Mehta, MBBS DGO, SRMC alumnus, a senior consultant obstetrician and gynecologist with 20 years of experience. She is keen on women wellness, health and fitness. Her special interests are in high-risk pregnancy and fetal well-being, laparoscopic surgery, infertility, gynec procedures, ultrasound pelvis, preventive gynecology, treatment of gynec and breast cancer. She is currently a consultant at Murugan Hospital, a visiting consultant at Dr. Mehta Hospital, Chennai, and Cloud9 Hospital. According to Dr. Bhavna, women form the backbone of the family and the society. To keep the woman healthy in mind and body is a specialty in itself. Hence, Dr. Bhavna has joined hands with Aura Wellness Center as medical director to promote women well-being as a whole and serve the women holistically with all spheres of specialities like allopathy, Ayurveda, naturopathy, yoga, homeopathy, physiotherapy, etc. We would like to touch upon some of her achievements here. Dr. Bhavna Mehta has received an award from His Excellency and Governor of Tamil Nadu, Thiru K. Rosaiah, on Jan 4, 2015 for her excellent services rendered in the field of obstetrician. She is also a good public speaker and MC. She has many events, functions for her credit for MCing. On the medical front, she has been a speaker at the Progress Conference and Indian Menopause Society. She has given health-related talks at many schools and colleges. She loves public speaking and interacting at various levels. Talking about her fitness journey, she is very passionate about running and fitness and living healthy. She has participated in many marathons and is an active runner in the Tower to Stress group of runners. Dr. Bhavna believes in holistic wellness. Hence, she regularly practices yoga. She is also an yoga certified professional from the Ministry of Ayush. Today, along with her presentation about menstruation and menstrual hygiene, Dr. Bhavna will give us an insight about the association of physiology and yoga asanas, which are helpful in menstruation.
That was a very, very nice introduction and a very nice note to start off with. So yes,
Thank you.
Good evening, dear viewers. So today we're going to talk about a topic which is the beginning or the hallmark in a young girl's life, which is menstruation. So what is menstruation? Is it an enigma? Is it magic? Is it a secret? Is it a sudden onset? The next slide, please. No.
1 minute.
It is not a sudden onset. In fact, it is the end of a gradual journey from thelarchy, adrenarchy, pubarchy, and menarchy. Well, let me explain what thelarchy is. Thelarchy is the process of the development of the breasts. Adrenarchy is the process of development of the axillary and the pubic hair. Pubarchy is the experience of a growth spurt or an increase in the height. And finally, menarche, which is the onset of periods. Next one. So, whom does a young girl look up to know what menstruation is? Does she look up to the social media? Does she look up to the media? Her friends? Her teacher at school? Or her neighbors? No, my dear friends. It is the mother who is the best guide to her daughter to explain menstruation in a positive, reassuring, and confident manner. She is the one who is going to explain to the young girl that menstruation is a normal physiological growth process which happens in the female. She is the one who's not going to mince words and give a negative feeling or embarrassing feeling to her young daughter. In fact, she will not have any awkwardness or will not use a hush-hush manner, but she will help the daughter in coping mechanisms to understand the process of menstruation better. She will explain, she will give confidence to the girl that there is nothing embarrassing about menstruation. It is just a stepping stone from a young girl turning into a woman. So yes, forewarned is forearmed, and none other than the mother who's the best guide. Next one, please. So I was asked, and I get asked at my clinic many times, Doctor, when and how should we explain menstruation to the young daughter of mine? When there is noticeable physiological change. For example, there is a development of a mound of breast or pubic hair. That is the time to introduce and educate her about menstruation, because that young one is going to come to the mother and say, hey, look, there's some hair growing under my arm and I don't know what it is. And that is the moment the mother needs to sit down and explain what the girl is undergoing is nothing but a physiological, a physical, a psychological change in her body and how she's going to view it. How to approach it. Many women sometimes get perplexed as to how to sit down the girl and tell her about menstruation. No, that's not the way. You don't have to call her one fine day and say, come on, sit down, I'm going to explain menstruation to you. No. The girl comes running to the mother and saying, oh my, I have an acne out here. My scalp suddenly feels very oily. Look, I'm taller than you. I have grown tall. And that's the growth spurt. And then she says, Ma, suddenly my hips are feeling bigger than my waist. And then there is a change and increase in the hip-waist ratio. These are the moments where the mother should make use of and explain to the girl that these bodily changes, these physical changes are a play of hormones that is in the body, and is the cause of the change. And that is when she should say, these are not the only things that are changing in you, dear. There will be changes in the internal and external reproductive organs. And thereby she introduces menstruation to the little girl. Next one, please. So what is menstruation and what is the age group? The onset of menarche happens anywhere between 9 and 15 years of age. And now I sometimes see girls as young as 8 who come in with menses. So yes, the age group is between 8 and 15 or 9 and 15. So what is menstruation actually? How will you tell her? Menstruation is a shedding of the lining of the non-pregnant uterus every month or cyclically and presents as vaginal bleeding. Can we scroll down 2 slides, please? So that is a diagram which shows the internal reproductive organ of the woman. The triangular shaped is the uterus, and then it has two tubes bilaterally with the ovaries, which are white in color. Now on one portion, you can see that there is a thick red lining, and that is before a period. But once there is a period which is experienced, on the other side of the diagram, you'll see that the thick red lining has become thin. That is because that lining is shed down into the vagina as vaginal bleeding or menses. And what does it contain? Not just blood, it also contains endometrial tissue or uterine tissue. Can we go back to the previous slides, please? So, what are the symptoms you can experience during your menses or prior to your menses? There is discomfort prior and during periods in the form of lower abdominal pain, lower back pain, breast tenderness, bloating, mood swings, food cravings, and last of all, premenstrual syndrome, which is nothing but an aggregation of all the above symptoms in a very aggressive form, which has a harrowing experience on the girl every single month. And that is very, very difficult to cope. Now we will deal with breast tenderness. Why do you get breast tenderness? That is because of the hormone estrogen. All right, it has got water retention properties, and thereby the lobules, that is the tissue in the breast, also expands, causing the lobes and the lobules of the breast expand, causing pain. All right, but most of the times women come in and say, "Doctor, I have breast pain. I think it's cancer. Can you take a look?" Well, ladies, you'll be very happy to know that breast pain is not a symptom of cancer. Breast pain is associated with your menstrual cycle, either before your periods, during your periods, after your periods, or throughout the menstrual cycles. The next slide, please. We will now come to addressing how to handle the other symptoms. There is a lot of emphasis on having a healthy diet which is rich in fruits, vegetables, greens, a lot of proteins, but low on fats, and low of sugar, that is sweets, chocolates, and increased salt. Increased liquid intake to prevent bloating, mood swings, and headaches. Hydration is the key to prevent headaches, mood swings, and bloating. On the contrary, people think, oh, I'm bloating, so I'm going to be off liquids, off water. No, that is a common mistake that I encounter with women, and I have to reassure them saying your liquid intake is in fact going to reverse the changes of bloating, mood swings, and headaches. Encourage the girl or the woman to be active and do simple exercises and go for a walk. Yoga is an important aspect as it has helped in multiple ways to deal with all the above symptoms that I've stated. Yoga provides a much needed relief and is known to be extremely helpful to deal with the discomforts of premenstrual syndrome. And that is going to be explained once I finish this part of the medical talk. Now we come to menstrual bleeding, what is normal. Next slide, please. I have women coming into my clinic and saying, "Doctor, I have bleeding only for 2 days. Is that fine? My neighbor says she bleeds for 7 days. And she said something is wrong with me since I'm bleeding only for 2 days. Well, a normal period is having bleeding anywhere from 2 to 7 days in the interval of 22 to 35 days. So individualize your periods, individualize yourself. Each woman is different, and so are her cycles and her periods. Now, coming to a young girl who's just attained menarche or an onset of periods, it would take anywhere between 2 to 4 years before the hormones stabilize in her and she converts to a normal, regular bleeding pattern. Some of them just set in as though, they were trained for it. But few of the girls struggle with an irregular, prolonged bleeding pattern. Just yesterday, a 14-year-old walked in who had a menarche last April. And she had the misfortune of bleeding, landing up with a hemoglobin and anemia of 7. And she had to have blood transfusions. Why am I stating this? Just so that you people are aware that prolonged bleeding in a young girl who's just attained menarche can cause anemia and can cause a lot of discomfort to the young one. So she constantly needs to be reassured, supervised, asked about how she is feeling so that you can take proper actions and take her to a gynecologist for proper treatment. Now, what is the normal quantity of bleeding during a normal menstrual cycle or a period? Simply put in, it's just 3 teaspoons. 3 teaspoons. Yes, unbelievable, but yes, it's just 3 teaspoons, which is 20 to 50 ml of blood loss. Having said that, any intermenstrual or postcoital bleeding or any prolonged bleeding warrants a gynec opinion. Next slide, please. So, having briefed you about what menstruation is and how to cope up with it, you have to make the little girl understand about menstrual hygiene and its management. There are different products available in the market to handle menses in the form of sanitary pads, which are disposable and reusable, the menstrual cups for the mature ladies, and the menses underpant. Tampons were a vogue in a few years back, but now is used rarely or given up due to the toxic shock syndrome it caused, and it was a very bad reaction. Hence, tampons was laid back. Next one, please. This is a pictographical demonstration of where the menstrual cup is to be placed. The uterus and the mouth of it is called the cervix. It just has to be placed below your cervix so that the vaginal bleeding collects into the menstrual cup. Now, I had a query saying, Doctor, I do want to use a menstrual cup, but I find it very, very difficult to insert it. Yes, first few times is always a trial and error. You will have to keep patience. You will have to learn how to insert the menstrual cup. There are different methods of inserting it, folding it rather, not inserting. So there is a push down method where you can fold it. There is a C fold. There is a 7 fold. So all that can be learned by trial and error methods and then see what works for you. So once the cup is pushed in, don't push it in hard or don't be rough with it. Don't hurt yourself in the process. Gently push it in, and there will be a vacuum created. And how do you test it? You just have to pinch the edge of that cup or the stem of the cup and see whether it's coming out. Once it doesn't budge, then you know it is in place. Next slide, please. Again, these are pictographical demonstrations of your disposable pads, the reusable pads, the underpants, menses underpants and tampons. Next slide, please. Having discussed the products that are available, you need to help make the girl choice of what will be comfortable for her to use. Obviously, for a young girl who's just attained menarche, the choice of product would be the sanitary pads. There are, even in the disposable, you have the cotton ones, which are less harmful in way of not giving rashes to the sensitive skin, okay? Or you can have cloth pads, which are very good quality ones. But the only thing is you need to teach her how to dispose and how to sanitize herself in order to maintain hygiene, menstrual hygiene management. So how do you dispose these products? If it is a disposable pad, then you teach her to wrap it in a cover, and then there are designated bins to dispose the pads. And teach her that she needs to be responsible to the self, society, and environment in even disposing the products she's using. When it comes to reusable pads, it has to be washed, cleaned, and sun-dried, not dried in a damp place where it can catch a fungal infection or any other bacterial infection. The menstrual cup needs to be recycled every 8 to 12 hours. Yes. So it is a boon for the working women, the menstrual cup, because she doesn't need to change it as often as she changes a pad. She can probably insert it in the morning and then come back at late night and then, reuse it. And sanitation. Ensuring hygienic toilets in school and workplaces with running water facility goes a long way in saving an embarrassment for the woman and feeling delicate during that time called periods. Next. A healthy woman is a healthy nation. The advice that I want to give the young girl of today is to be physically strong and mentally strong. And how does she do it? By taking good care of herself and her health. Only then she can keep the family, society, country in a healthy and sound condition. So with this positive note, I give the platform back to Pavitra, and then we will be taking a session on yoga to relieve the discomforts and symptoms of the periods. On to you, Pavi.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhavna. Yeah. Now that we have seen the how the physiology and the anatomy works in menstruation, and Dr. Bhavna also spoke about the menstrual cup, and we'll be taking the questions at the end of the session. So there's a question mark that you would see on your screen. So you can type in your questions there. So your questions will be answered at the end of the session. Before we move to the next part, I just wanted to give a brief introduction about the menstrual yoga course that we have been doing for the last 1.5 months. So last 1.5 months, we actually took up the topic of premenstrual syndrome, and we have been posting asanas and pranayamas, which is related to premenstrual issues such as menstrual cramps, bloating, sore breast, and mood swing. These asanas have been tried, and people have got benefited out of it. So I thought I will share a couple of them. And Dr. Bhavna also is going to explain, how it works from the physiology point of view. Before we go there, I want to play a short video on, what is yoga, because a lot of people think that, yoga is complicated and they don't even want to venture into it.
Right.
See, yoga is actually very simple, and you can make it very effective. The support of, objects to reach that asana. So that's what I'm going to explain in the next 2 minutes, and then we will start with the asanas demonstration with a voiceover and explanation from Dr. Bhav.
Yogaha chittavrittinirodhaha. Sage Patanjali says, yoga calms down the fluctuations of the mind. Yoga started as an ancient spiritual practice which has reference in Rig Veda and Upanishads. With the change of lifestyle and needs of people, various kinds of yoga have evolved and has been practiced, out of which Hatha Yoga is widely practiced for wellness and fitness. Yoga is not just mere exercise. Yuj means union. Yoga is a union of body, mind and soul. Whenever body and mind connection happens, the magic of healing automatically gets triggered. Yoga is not complicated. Yoga can be made simple but effective. A simple pose, such as a butterfly pose or Baddha Konasana, will help you improve the flexibility of your inner thighs, groins, and knees. It also soothes your menstrual discomfort. It's one of the best preparatory posture for other meditative poses. You can always find alternative to do an asana. Take the support of a bolster, block, a chair, or a table if you're not able to do an asana directly. Very simple, right? Yoga helps you keep fit physically and mentally. Spine is a very important part of our body which holds chakras that are nerve intersection points. There are asanas which makes you flexible as well as corrects and aligns your spine. Practice of pranayama, breathing exercises, removes toxins from your body and improves blood circulation. Choose the right asanas for your requirement and make yoga part of your daily routine. Yoga plays a significant role in regulating the menstrual cycle and also alleviating the pain to a large extent. The deep breathing patterns followed during pranayamas help oxygen circulate the body and get into your muscles. Main factor of menstrual cramps is lack of oxygen in your uterine muscles, and pranayama helps to a very great extent. Even a simple stretch with Om chanting will be very beneficial for you during the menstrual period. Atha yoga nusasanam, says sage Patanjali. The practice of yoga begins now. Keep practicing yoga and stay healthy.
So
That was a lovely presentation, and hope more and more women, come back to you and seek your help to practice yoga and yogasanas to relieve premenstrual syndrome and the discomforts during periods.
yeah, so now the next part of the session is where we have picked up few asanas. So I would request you to go over the medical aspect of it so that people understand it has a medical relation with the physiology. And I've given voiceover instructions, very simple. They can just follow the video and then do it.
Right.
The next posture is Shupta Baddha Konasana.
So, Bhavna, you want to explain Shupta Baddha Konasana before I play the actual instructions?
The Shupta Baddha Konasana is nothing but the lying down butterfly pose. So, can we just show a picture of that? Is it possible? Or I think she just ran through the lying butterfly pose. Yes. So this pose is possible even when sitting down, but the lying down butterfly pose is chosen because most of the women have lower abdominal and lower backache, and that is due to the release of prostaglandins during the periods. And there is also, like I said, the estrogen hormone and the progesterones, which are playing their naughty roles out there and trying to kind of constrict the blood vessels and blood flow to the uterus, and thereby causing a lot of pain and discomfort. So the posture, this particular posture while lying down, gives rest to the back. At the same time, when you extend and bend your knees, your legs and knees, there is a free flow of blood over there. And this posture is immensely helpful as it releases the effects of the prostaglandins. It increases the blood flow, and therefore it increases the oxygen supply to the body and to the lower abdomen, especially the pelvis, this is mainly concentrating on your internal reproductive organs, and thereby it causes and relieves the lower abdominal discomfort, pain, and abdominal ache. The next
It's
one.
a very simple pose. Yeah. I'll just play the instructions for it
Yeah.
so that people can understand. And these are available on the Insta page. So if they want, they can go view anytime and then, try it out.
Ucharu Baddha Konasana. Sit in Baddha Konasana. Place a bolster at your lower back, perpendicular to your body. You slowly take the support of your hands. Keep your elbows down. Gently lie down on the bolster. Make sure your head, chest, and your back rest on the bolster. Close your eyes. Keep your palms facing up. Take a deep breath. Relax. This is a good pose that relaxes the abdominal organs, which gives a very, very soothing effect for your cramps.
This posture is specifically done for trans, and Dr. Bhavna was explaining. So, and we have tried it and we found it very useful. Yeah, let's go to the next one for sore breast. We're just picking up one asana.
To talk about back this week, to talk about simple asanas that will reduce the effect of sore breasts. Virabhadrasana.
Yeah. So, Dr. Bhavna, I choose Virabhadrasana.
Yeah. So in this posture, the upper body as well as the lower body, but more to do with the upper body. Okay, there is a spinal action, and the action is more on the chest, shoulders, hands, and abdomen. All right. Now this, since it is concentrating more on your upper body, it relieves the breast pain or the tenderness. Like I had said earlier in my talk, the lobules and the lobes of the breasts are engorged, meaning they are filled with more of fluid. And this posture will relieve that swelling or the bloating or over the breasts, and hence the tenderness or the pain that is perceived prior to, during, or after periods is reduced a lot, and the woman finds a lot of comfort after she has done this asana. So this is multi-purpose. In fact, if you see, the spine is straight and the abdomen is also pulled in. The breathing has to be regular here, inhale and exhale. And by doing this, the lower body, the lower internal organs are also activated and relieved of the prostaglandin secretions. So yes, Pavi, you can explain the nuances of how to do the pose.
Yeah.
Bring your right leg to the front and half sit on your right leg. Make sure the lower part of your right leg is at 90 degrees to the floor. The heel of the front feet and the arch of the back feet are in line, and the distance of 3 to 5 feet is maintained between both the legs. Now bring your palms together in Namaste position. Now inhale, take your hands up and stretch it out such that the fingers are pointing to the sky. Arch your spine slightly with your abdomen tucked in. Stay in this posture for a count of 10. And exhale, slowly bring your hands down and relax your legs.
So I have actually mentioned who it's not supposed to do certain asanas, because not everybody can do all the asanas. So if you have lower back pain or knee pain, right, we can avoid this asana, but at the same time, they can do it with the chair support. You can sit in the chair and give that stretch to the abdomen and still get the pain relief. The next one that we will do.
Asana for this week is Malasana.
Yeah. So Malasana is used for bloating. Over to you, Bhavna, for
Yeah. So Malasana, as you see, is a complete squat, and thereby here again the organs that are important are the internal reproductive organs, then the intestines, which is responsible for most of the bloating. It's not just the internal reproductive organs, but the intestines also. The hormones affect the abdomen in a whole, as a whole. So yes, particularly the internal organs, but and the abdomen as a whole. So when the intestines are also causing a lot of indigestion, bloating, and the stomach causes a lot of gastric irritability, this is the perfect pose to relieve the indigestion, the gastritis, the difficulty in passing flatus, which most of them experience. So this is a wonderful pose, and but it needs to be done on an empty stomach. Please don't do it on a full stomach or soon after food. Yeah, Pavi, you can go ahead with the explanation.
Yeah.
Malasana is a deep squat pose and an excellent hip opener. Now stand with your legs apart, your feet facing diagonal. Bring your palms together in Namaste position. Do not interlock your fingers. Now inhale first. Now as you exhale, try sitting in deep squat as shown in the picture. Keep your spine erect, your lower back and neck in line. Now inhale, exhale, take 2 more deep breaths and completely relax. Do not do this pose if you have lower back or knee pain. If you find it difficult to sit in full squat, use a bolster for support. First asana.
Again, this is suppose that our parents or grandparents have been practicing. So Indian toilet, right? Something that we have forgotten for a period of time. So,
Right.
I mean, again, we have to do a yoga pose in order to achieve the same. Yeah, I think now I'll just show you a pranayam for book swings because of the time constraint.
Right.
So I'll just go over directly to the pranayam, and then we'll take questions from the audience.
Perfect.
On a mat, nostril breathing. Sit with let's see the Brahmari Pranayama. Brahmari, deep. Sit with your spine erect. Now bring your index finger close to your ear flap. Now inhale, exhale, close your mouth, gently press your ear flap and make the humming bee sound like this. Now repeat this for another 5 rounds and relax. Last 4 weeks we have been covering different challenges.
Dr. Bhavna, over to you. I played the instructions already.
Pavi, it's not audible. I'm not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's better.
Yeah. So yeah, I already played the instructions. So yeah, you can go over the effect of Brahmari on the mind and the body.
So Brahmari is something which soothes not just the mind but the body as well. And this asana per se for all women in all age groups, not just ones who have premenstrual symptoms or have other discomforts. Why I'm saying this is women are mostly multitasking. When they are multitasking, there's too much to take and too much of pressure to handle. And at times they get boggled and they do have their mood swings. All right. to save all the troubles to themselves and to their family members, I would suggest that most of the ladies on a day-to-day basis should practice Bhramari Pranayama. If not once, if not twice, at least once a day, so that there is orderliness and there is relief, there is calm, and there is relaxation in their mind, body, and soul. The way that Bhramari works is to soothe the I won't say brain, but the mind. All right. So it's not just an advice for women who are having their menarche or in their periods, but women throughout all age groups every day should practice Bhramari. Yes, Pavi.
Thank you, Dr. Bhavna. Yeah, I mean, let me stop here with respect to the yoga asanas and pranayama. They can always go to the page,
Right,
take a look at it, and then practice themselves. And if they have any questions, right, so they can definitely come back to me. Yeah. Now, going to the last part of the program, I'm going to turn on the comments now. There is a question mark icon that you will see in your page. So you can go type in your questions there. I already see 3 of them.
I guess only you can see the question.
There's one. Yeah, okay. So there's one question which says, is it recommended to take any pills for menstrual cramps?
Most of the times with the home remedies or the ones that I have said, it is alleviated. But sometimes, yes, you need to take NSAIDs or antispasmodics. They're absolutely safe to take. It doesn't have any long-term consequences or sequelae with regards to fertility or any in health. So yes, it is safe to take pills for menstrual cramps.
Yeah, others can also type in your questions either in the comments or in the question mark section. So yeah, question mark section will be helpful. Dr. Bhavna, there was a couple of questions on the spotting, whether that needs to be considered as periods or.
You're not audible, Bhavi.
Again, okay, let me turn on the. Yeah. Is it okay now?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah. Okay. So there were a couple of questions on the spotting. You know, a lot of people over the age of 30, they just have spotting for a couple of days and then the actual period starts, or that month the period doesn't come at all.
Right.
So is that okay, or should the spotting be also counted as the menstrual period days?
Right. So spotting is not normal. All right. Premenstrually, if it is 2 days or 3 days before, fine. But you don't count it as a period. Only the day you have established bleeding is counted as a period. Now, spotting in young girls can be due to in a mid-ovulatory cycle. So that can be due to ovulation, okay, which is totally physiological, acceptable. You don't need to go in for a treatment. But in a 30-year-old, like I said, in every decade, there is a change in the hormonal balance of a woman. So at what you are at 20 will not be the same at 30. And that will not be the same at 40 and 50. So every 10 years or every decade, there is a change in the woman's physiology. All right. In terms of the hormonal balance, in terms of how the body is coping up with it. All right. So there are multifactorial issues out there. Now, spotting can be due to many reasons. Like I said, if you have intermenstrual spotting, or if you have intercoital, postcoital, which is after sexual act. Now that again is not normal. If there is a polyp or if there is a cancer of the mouth of the uterus, then then she has to see a gynecologist. So if it is a recurrent spotting, okay, which is not yielding to anything, then she has to see the gynecologist. But if it's just 1, 2, 3 days prior to bleeding, that is a regular periods, and it's not hampering her in any way, then that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. The next question is white discharge a matter of concern?
White discharge per se is not a matter of concern, because as there are changes in your menstrual cycle, like you finished your period, the first 2 7 day is your menstrual periods, okay, and thereafter the 10th to 20th day is your ovulatory cycle. All right, after the 20th to the 25th day again is the luteal phase. So the first one is called the follicular phase after your menstruation. All right. The 7th to the 10th day or the 12th day is your follicular phase, which is predominantly by estrogen. And thereafter it is by the luteal hormone, and thereafter it's by the progesterone. So the white discharge you will see mostly is after your periods, it's very minimal or scanty. During the time of ovulation, it is copious, but it's long, stringy. And after ovulation, that is just prior to your periods, it's thick and mucoid. So if it is just white discharge without any itching, without any burning, without any foul smell, it's absolutely fine. So that's one question that day in and day out I have to answer to women and reassure them, saying if it is just a white discharge per se and in the manner that I explained, if that happens, then it is normal. But if it is accompanied by any itching, any foul smell, any burning or any other discomfort, then she needs to see a gynec.
The next question is, at what age does menopause begin approximately? I think the reason would be because most of them are not getting their periods regularly, so they're going through an irregular period cycle, and people assume that it might be because of menopause.
Yeah. So menopause, basically it's in a window period of 45 to 50 years of age. All right. So, and it's not like I said, menarche is a gradual onset. Menopause also is a gradual onset. It's not like suddenly it's going to stop. There will be indicators. There will be indicators to your menopause, like alteration in your bleeding pattern. All right, a delay in your bleeding pattern. But all said and done, you can't assume that it is menopause when you have alterations in your bleeding or your menstrual cycle. So you will have to pay a visit to the gynec so that she does her examination and comes to a conclusion whether it's menopause or not. But the age group for menopause falls between 45 and 50 years.
Yeah. The next question is, those days, if you see, right, we had, are you able to hear?
Yeah.
Should I, yeah. So if you look at our parents or grandparents' days, the first 3 days of periods, women is not allowed to enter kitchen, or, she's being kept separately. And people thought that, it is just that, they're blindly following it. And now people have started working, doing all sorts of things. Even, fitness activities are being done on 3 days. So what is your suggestion? So 3 days, women should be taking rest or reduce on the physical activity?
Okay. So my take on this is, you're talking about your grandparents and their grandmothers and their mothers. They didn't have the luxury of a remote or a mobile phone or a switch. All that they had to do was laborious. It involved, even if they had to have a wheat flour, they had to grind it in the chakki themselves. So they had to do day-to-day work every day and slog it out laboriously. All right. In those 3 days were the only days that the body and the woman of the house was given rest. And that was more because she required it. It was energy sapping. You can't really go ahead and do laborious work when you are having your periods. Okay. And I don't think we are even doing 25% of that work now. So that is the change in scenario, and that is why we are much more comfortable working on the first 3 days of our periods, going about our lives in the usual manner. Having said that, some of the women can feel really tired, can feel not up to it, don't want to get out of bed on those 3 days. And if she wants a rest, she's more than welcome to take it.
Okay. Yeah, but generally, is it suggested not to do any fitness activities those 3 days? Fitness activities. I mean, I don't suggest yoga to be done those 3 days. I ask people to kind of avoid.
I think here there is a point of contradiction. When you are suggesting yogasanas for relief of the symptoms of menstruation, then it is not right to say you can't do yoga.
I'll come to that point.
Yeah.
I'll come to that point. So I actually tell them not to do asanas that are going to compress their abdomen. Okay. So the asanas that I've suggested is basically for your pelvic expansion. Okay. And even the cramps one, right? Those needs to be done regularly as part of your daily routine. Okay. And when you're doing it regularly, I mean, the symptoms of cramps would reduce over a period of time. And when you have cramps, you can take the support. As I said, for Shukta Baddha Konasana, we do it flat, when on a normal day. So when you're with periods or menstruating, we do it with the support. So any heavy workouts, like even in yoga, we have asanas where, which is kind of giving a lot of stretches or compression to your abdomen. Those needs to be avoided. But in general, I tell if there is no rush for you to do it, don't do it. And of course, there are asanas that I've been suggesting, which, you can do for menstruation cramps or so forth. Those are the ones that you can do, and it has been practiced by people over here, and then we have proven it.
So I wouldn't really categorically say don't do it, because if you have been practicing it throughout, okay, and not doing it during your periods, but you're still getting the benefit of it. So yeah, I would say if you're able to do it, do it. There is nothing preventing you from not doing it.
Kapalbhati, we don't do it.
Pardon?
Yeah. Brahmari is something that you can do any point of time. Nadi Shuddhi is something that you can do.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to say don't do it. If you're comfortable doing what you have been doing, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think, one last question before we. Yeah. Can girls of age 20 use menstrual cup?
Yes, like I had a question from one of our viewers saying she found it very difficult to insert a cup, and she was about 30, 32. So above 18, yes, the girls can use a menstrual cup. And but they have to have a knack of introducing it. All right. All said and done, you are introducing a silicone cup inside. So you need to learn a method of what you're comfortable with to insert the cup. And it has got nothing to do. So young girl, I see where you're coming to, an 18 or a 20-year-old. So above 18 or 20, yes, they can use a menstrual cup.
Okay. Yeah. I think somebody typed in the comments asking, whether we can use menstrual cup during periods. I think that was the intention, right? I mean, menstrual cup are supposed to be used during periods.
Yeah, yes. So it is for the periods. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One last question, Bhavna, from my side, because I allow everybody to ask it. So these days, right, though you said the age of menstruation in the puberty to start would be like 8 to 15 years. During our days, like, it was above 10 years. Now we feel that, the girls are attaining puberty or showing signs of puberty, pre-puberty, premenstrual signs much before, like before 10 years. So could it be because of change of lifestyle or, change of food habits? What could be the reason?
It is a culmination of multiple facts, and the primary ones are the ones you stated. Lifestyles have changed drastically, and so with that has food habits. All right. So even now, today, if you see a 8 or a 9-year-old girl, she appears to be like an 13 or a 14-year-old. They don't even look their age. So that is the growth spurt that they have. All right. So once the body has a growth spurt, then the HPO axis from where, that is the hypothalamo-pituitary axis, is activated earlier in the girl. And that's why they have their menses earlier. So it's a Herculean task to reverse back and try to change your lifestyles, try to change the way you're eating. All right. So yes, it is here to stay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We keep telling not to eat preserved food, but then as you said, lifestyle has people go for preserved food. Yeah, if that can be avoided, probably we can still lead it. I think, any more questions? Okay. Let me conclude with vote of thanks. So for me, today is like a dream come true because I've been planning this session for a very, very long time.
Right.
And it was possible mainly because of you, doctor. So I have to say that when I actually called up Dr. Bhavna and told her over the phone, I didn't go in person also. So I just called her and said, this is what I'm planning to do. And then she didn't even hesitate for a minute. She immediately said, let's do it. So women who's very keen on, women wellness. So I'm very happy that this session happened today, and it'll be good if we can continue other topics of, women health also. Thank you so much, Dr. Bhavna, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thanks to the wonderful audience. They've been keeping in touch with us, through posting their questions. And also many of them have gone through the posts that I've already posted in Instagram and Facebook. They've sent in their comments. They call me and ask questions like, should I do it this way? That's really encouraging for us to, do more kind of such posting so that we know that people are actually looking at it. They are trying it out. Some of them even click pictures and send me.
Right. That's
that
so
was
encouraging.
Very, very encouraging for me. And thank you all of them for joining today and listening to our wonderful talks. And my vote of thanks will not be complete if I don't thank this one lady who has been behind me, pushing me. Because of it, pushing me to do things. And even if I'm busy with something else, still she would call me and then do it. She has been making videos, helping me with the postures. And today she's doing the back setup work of the video playing and all that. So it's Madhini Balaji. So Madhini is here, but she doesn't want to come to the screen.
Madhini, you can peep in.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much for coming to this event. And I just supported her, and it's Pavitra's thought process, and she wants to guide. Do her best possible to the extent, and you have been guiding this from your end, and without you, it will not be. It's really a dream come true for her.
I had a wonderful time coordinating things with Pavitra and you, and it was a pleasure to be on this platform. And I think 3 cheers to the women, 3 women out here on the screen, and to the women off the screen. Yeah. So if there are more queries, please pass it on to Pavitra, and she will pass it on to me, and we'll reply it back. So hoping to see Pavitra and Madhini and many more on this platform.
We'll soon plan out, the other topics. I've been getting in touch with few people to really understand, what kind of issues are prevailing PCOD, PCOS, and I'll also need your help to understand and come up with asanas, and I'll post it. We'll also plan for another live session depending on
Definitely, sure.
And
it was a pleasure, Pavitra.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Really,
Bhavna.
thank you so much.
Thank you all of you. You can pass on your feedback to me directly about the show or anything that can be added. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.